maybe their grief is more intensified. And even then we send our love and our light out to all of those. Maybe lost a father or mother, sibling, friend, a child, co-worker. And then we want to bring our awareness back to ourselves. And we tune in, inhale deeply. Aum. 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 Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mitroma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Inhale deeply, suspend your breath. And exhale. Good. I'd like us to open our eyes, bring the thumbs into the center of our palm, wrapping our fingers around our thumb, bringing our elbows up. Upper arms are parallel to the floor. Bring the elbows back, and then this your inhale, exhale, and have the side of your arms touch. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. This can be seen as a posture for protection. We're opening up where we also protect ourselves. Expanding and contracting. And the contraction, it's not negative. It's more like a retreating into ourselves. We go for one more minute. Last 30 seconds, keep it going. Good, and we inhale into the open posture. And then we exhale, arms go out to the side. Now I want you to move your hands, palms, you all fingers touch, palms facing your body. You just move your hands and then you give over. Yeah, so you can see how many times you want to do the rotation. And then you imagine you give your love, your compassion, and your patience, understanding out into the world. You activate these qualities and then you share them. You find your own breath pattern here. Stimulate the auric field and the energy center of your heart. Allow yourself to be generous in your giving. One more minute. Rotating your hands in front of your heart center. And then open the hands out, the palms facing upward above your knees. Last 3 times. Last one. And just sit here for a moment. Feel into your heart. From here, we bring our arms out to the side, up overhead, and then we intertwine them, so to speak, going down, inhaling up. So if you're connecting the left and the right side of your body, the feminine and the masculine. Bringing in both sides and the knowingness that it's needed. Deep inhalation, exhalation. These are great movements actually for our wrists as well as our elbow joints. Last one. Rest your hands again here. Take a moment. Last movement. You bring your arms up again, palms facing forward. And then the arms moving forward around as if you bring the prana into your mouth. Inhale here when you bring your hands towards your mouth. Exhale nose when you bring your arms back. Really putting in the prana, the life force, into your body. Filling yourself up for the entire day. Reminding yourself to breathe. Last 3 times. And then we rest our hands onto our knees, palms facing upward. And then we are ready for Nirmala.
Thank you, Siddhi. I like that, moving it back, because it works both your back and your shoulders and your neck, and then bringing it in. It's really lovely. Thank you. Karen Gunn, I see that you have a hand up. Did you have a question for Siddhi? Karen Gunn?
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, now I know I have a hand.
I wondered if you didn't know. Anyway, just to know if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand.
I love it.
Oh, goodness. I know, it's very empowering, right? It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Today, namaskar, my beautiful women. One piece of business before I begin is that today, Lorna was going to give us an overview of mindfulness and her meditation teachings, but she's not going to today for several reasons. For one main reason, that we're juggling our Zoom online meetings this morning, so we can't accommodate the overlap that would be happening. So it won't happen today. She will be with us in December, on December the 11th. So exactly 2 months from now, October, November, 3 months from now. So I'm sorry about that, but she'll be back. She will be with us. So today we're going to continue on our Yoga Sutras, the Patanjali's epic writing, the Yoga Sutras. We will go through the 8 limbs of the Yoga Sutras. And I want to talk just a bit as a reminder of why the Yoga Sutras are so important to us and why we should be studying them with great interest. There are so many beautiful spiritual writings that we can use as guideposts for our spiritual journey, but the Yoga Sutras are so comprehensive with respect to offering us this full body, mind, spirit integration experience that we keep talking about. And from the Western mind, we often think that that yoga is a series of postures, asanas, that we take our body through, and that's our yoga class. But from Patanjali and the Eastern philosophy and teaching perspective, yoga is so much broader than that. And we've talked about many different aspects of yoga. But what I like about Patanjali's teachings in the Yoga Sutras is that they're very cleanly delineated. So we can really understand how these 8 different limbs interact with one another in order to create this container that we can use that holds all of these different practices and perspectives that are working together to really make the mind, body, spirit connection and integration work. And that if we are only aiming towards one, the body, or towards the mind, or towards the spirit, we don't get the fullness that we're looking for. And here these teachings were written thousands of years ago, and they were very astute. He was very astute and very clear about how it is that we can utilize all these different aspects of ourselves to make the whole. And so I think that this is such a simple way for us to return to the idea of how are we building our spiritual journey? How are we building the toolbox for the disciplines and the awareness that we keep talking about, and the capacity for us to be able to be presence in all situations? And how do we do that? And using the Yoga Sutras as a guidepost is a really simple, clean way to do that. So I want to spend more time with that, because I think we are endeavoring to have some sort of a program or a format that we, or a template that we can use to be able to be working on this body, mind, spirit integration that we keep talking about. And the Yoga Sutras is just a really nice way to do that. So I want to first just go over the yamas very briefly that we took on, I think 2 weeks ago, as the first of the 8 limbs. And those, I won't go over the practices, the micro practices, but just the overview of it, is that those are the ethical practices and principles that clarify our relationship with the world and everything that's in it. So it's us and the outside world. How is that intersecting, and what happens, and what practices we can do. And you'll remember all of this, of course, is on our toolbox, so you can refer to it there. But you'll remember that the yamas are broken into 5 different practices. Ahimsa, which is to do no harm to ourselves or others or the planet. Satya, which is honesty, integrating honesty into all aspects of how we communicate. Asteya, no stealing, not meaning just something physical, an object, but not stealing dignity or beauty or truth from anyone, not taking that away from someone. Brahmacharya, the wise use of our creative energy, including sexual energy and all that is creative, how we co-create in the world, and using that energy wisely and carefully. Aparigraha, which is the non-possessiveness, so moving us from greed to generosity of spirit, letting things that we have in our life move through us and not get stuck with us where we think we need something. So we're not possessive of anything that's in our life, whether it's relationships or physical things that we have around us, or a certain type of food or a certain type of car or any of that, that we're not possessive of an idea, that we're not allowing ideas to become the master of us, that we think we have to have things a certain way. So allowing that fluidity. Those are the 5 yamas, the 5 different sections of yamas. So the second limb of the Yoga Sutras is the niyamas. And the niyamas are our relationship with our internal world. So the yamas were our outside relationship, and the niyamas are our internal relationship. And as they were in the yamas, they're broken into 5 habits or 5 areas that we can take a look at. And I have a micro practice for each of these. So let's go through those. The first of those 5 is Sakcha, which is purity and cleanliness. And it's keeping the energy of our body, mind, and spirit flowing in harmony and purity. So this idea of purifying ourselves, really big concept in the Eastern tradition, purifying spaces, purifying our body, purifying our thoughts. How do we keep everything free from the debris that we gather through life that is not pure? And it can be a thought, it can be an action, it can be a way of being into the world, but that we want to access our spiritual journey in the most pure way that we can. That all that is not pure is something that stops us from being able to fully live into who it is that we are, because those are dark spots. And so we really want to be careful about that. So in all traditions, the breath is a great purifier. So there's a breath, it's called the lion's breath, that I want to teach you right now, which is a really great breath that clears the mind and detoxes the body. So it's very simple, just in a seated position. You're going to take a breath and inhale through your nose, and you're going to exhale by opening your mouth as wide as possible and sticking your tongue out and breathing out like a lion, which is why they call it the lion's breath. So it's like this. So we're going to do 5 of those together, 5 lion breaths. So sit quietly, stably on your seat, and let's take a deep inhale through the nostril and exhale through your mouth, opening your mouth wide and sticking your tongue out, roaring like a lion. So first one, inhale. 2. Whatever noises you can make, bringing up this energy that's stagnant in us, And this is a really great way if you're feeling a little lethargic in the afternoon, or a little like your head's gotten not so clear, you just need a little clarity. Just take 5 of these breaths, 10 of these breaths, works up the toxins, releases them and purifies our breath. It's a purifying breath. Great one to use to release any sort of energy that you're carrying around a conversation you might have had, or a concern that keeps going through your mind that you use the lion's breath. That's a Satya. The next one is Santusha, and it's contentment and gratitude, and the mindset of abundance rather than scarcity, believing that there is enough in our life. And it's unleashing our generosity. How often we hold ourselves captive by not believing that there's enough of something. So our mind has to spend a lot of time in the concern that we might not have enough love, or we might not have enough financial support, or we might not have enough freedom, or we might not have whatever it is. We spend a lot of time working with that in our mind before we even recognize or we actually experience that we have not enough. It's in anticipation of not having enough. Once you don't have enough, you generally figure out ways to solve that. What are my resources? What are the ways in which I can ask for help? What are the ways I can adapt and change my behavior or my use of a certain resource that I might have? But the mind, a lot of time thinking in advance that there might not be enough. And it keeps us from having a sense of contentment and gratitude. So one of the really great practices, a lot about the practices of writing a gratitude journal. This is sort of a variation of that. This is getting yourself, and perhaps you already have either a chalkboard or a whiteboard, and putting it somewhere in your bedroom or in your kitchen or wherever you want it to be, and recognizing that because it's a chalkboard or a whiteboard, it's impermanent. Whatever we put on it is going to be moving. It's fluid. We're not writing something indelibly and saying this is forever. We're just writing it that it's present now. What we're going to write on this chalkboard or whiteboard is present now. And we want to allow that to be seeping into how it is that we're viewing in our perception of the abundance in our life. And in the morning, I want us to write 3 things that jazz us about our life vision, how our life is unfolding, our relationships, our tenacity, our perseverance, anything that we want to write about how it is we're holding our life together. 3 things that are giving us a sense of joy and contentment, and that we say, hey, I really like how I'm doing that in my life. And then I want us to write 3 things that we have in abundance, that we aren't worried about scarcity, that we have in abundance. So there will be 6 things on your whiteboard or your chalkboard. And let it sit there for the day. And the next morning you wipe them off and we put 3 more. We want to be cultivating this sense of abundance in the qualities that we carry, that we have enough perseverance, enough tenacity, enough patience, enough resourcefulness. We have that already. We want to acknowledge that in ourselves. That is that which we carry, not an outside resource, what we carry inside of ourselves. And then we want to write 3 things in our life that are the abundance that we recognize is in our life. Maybe it's the support of our friends, or it might be the beautiful flowers in your garden. It can be whatever. But the idea that we have 6 things every day and we're allowing them to move through. There's this flow and fluidity of our lives that isn't stagnant, that we don't write up a list and just keep that list going, that we allow those things to come and move, because many days the abundance and the beauty and the resources we have show up for that day. In that day, you feel more energy, you feel more insightful, you feel more driven to do something, you feel more protected or more cared for. You might not feel that way every day, but some days you do. And when we record it in that way, as it's flowing through our life, we start to recognize all of these many different qualities that are dancing around inside of us. And some days they're really strong and some days they're less. They're not quite so strong, but they still are there for us. And I want us to start noticing and really cultivating those things. The next of the aspects under the niyamas is tapas, and that means discipline, and typically in the Eastern tradition, it would mean yogic practice. What are your yogic disciplines? But what I'd like to suggest is that you pick one aspect of your life where you would like to implement a change. It might be a behavior. It might be a way that you bring in patience. It might be a way that you take care of your body. It can be whatever you would like, a new habit that you would like to develop as a practice in your life. And we're going to commit to that practice for what we call a mandala. So it's 40 or 48 days. So for 40 or 48 days, you're going to consistently include this change and implement this change that you would like to have established in your life. And you're going to write this on your chalkboard so that you know that just on the very bottom on your whiteboard, what it is that you're looking to implement. Where is the change that you want? It might be in how you use your words. It might be how you listen. You might want to take 48 days to practice being an amazing listener. You might want to take 48 days to say, I'm going to do for 48 days this practice. I'm going to take a walk for 48 days. I'm going to read for 48 days for pleasure, just because I want to read for a half hour or whatever. It can be anything, but it's practicing something that is internal and external, that is giving us pleasure. That is a new practice, that is something we can expand in our lives. We get stuck in the same practices and doing the same things every day. And I know even in COVID, we have just developed new patterns. They're different, but we've just developed new ones. And now we've got those patterns. The yogic practice is one of not having patterns. It's of creating something new and then letting it go, and then creating something new and then letting it go. Not getting stuck on any one behavior or practice, allowing that we can hold a whole variety of possibilities at any time. But when we get into a routine that is ongoing, we stop seeing things that are on the perimeter or the fringe of that routine, and we start just living into that, getting up at the same time, going the same way. We should try to be changing that routine and living into a new discipline as often as possible. It's more alive. It brings us more vitality. It keeps our mind, the brain quotient in that, having plasticity. We need to be able to have our mind thinking differently. So we want to be bringing in tapas, a discipline of change, a discipline of inviting in something new. And the next one is svadhyaya. It's self-reflection or self-study, an inner reflection. It can be reading ancient texts. It can be reading anything that you might like. It can be writing. But what I'm going to suggest for this practice is that you look at something that you're interested in, that you'd like to explore, that you maybe had on your wish list for a while. For me, I just recently took up watercoloring. I'd never colored. I'm a terrible color. I don't color well. I don't draw well. I've never done any of those things well. And I decided I wanted to watercolor, and I'm having so much fun. And it's just a simple thing that I spend, a half hour, an hour a day doing. But choose something you would like to explore. It might be books, it might be movies, it might be music, something that is a creative endeavor for you to go in another path that you haven't done, that will allow you to reflect on yourself differently. Self-reflection is asking ourselves, who are we? And I think sometimes we contain ourselves in a certain way, and we give ourselves a definition, we define who we are, and we don't step outside of that. Why should we not be trying something new all the time? Even if we're not really good at it, just because it's interesting for us to go through the process of stripping away all of these, you can't, you shouldn't, you don't have time, all of these nots, and say yes, just say yes. So choose something for this one type of exploration and self-reflection that you're interested in, and follow that for the week, and say, I'm going to just stick with that. And every day I'm going to have an experience of that, because I want to try something outside the box for myself. And the last of these aspects of the niyamas is Ishvara Pranidhana, and it means devotion or surrender. And the easiest way in the Eastern tradition to devote yourself or surrender to something is to use the tool of the Om, the primordial sound, the universal sound of creation. and use Om as a chant and chant it for, you can choose the amount of time, 11 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I like 11 because it's a divine feminine number. So you might want to choose 11 and just sit on your bed, on the floor, on your mat, your yoga mat, and chant Om for 11. Set the insight timer and chant, and invite in the surrender of your heart and the surrender of your being to a different way of experiencing yourself. This is an internal process, getting to know yourself. Surrender yourself to yourself. You don't have to hold yourself up to any quality or any level to yourself. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's allow the softness of ourselves to embrace who it is we really are, and allow for us to have flaws or fears or concerns. That's part of who we are. Let's surrender to that. So this week I'll post this tonight, so you'll be able to use it for direction. And let's try looking at least one of these aspects for the week, if not a couple of them, and invite these into your life so that you have an opportunity to expand in this internal way of who it is that you are in the world. Get to know ourselves. This is our opportunity to know ourselves. We deserve it, ladies.
Thank you. Love to implement.
Sorry.
I just thought we need, less work and more time for this. Okay, I want us to take our right hand and wrap the right hand around our left ring finger and pinky. Just gently wrap around, and then rest your hands in your lap. This way you will activate especially your heart meridian and your small intestine meridian, so you can digest everything Nirmala just shared, but you also help your heart. And then I invite us, if possible, to curl our tongue and stick the tongue out just a little bit out of the mouth, and we inhale through the curled tongue. We pull the tongue back in, press the tongue against the upper palate, the tip of your tongue behind your front teeth, and we slowly exhale through the nose. Inhale through the curled tongue. Close your mouth, press the tongue against your upper palate. Exhale slowly through your nose, and just continue. For those who can curl their tongue, you just have your lips rounded as if you suck in air through a straw. And then you close your mouth and you exhale through your nose. So the Sitali Pranayam, as it's called, it's a very cooling breath. Yeah, the emotions can be high today. And we want to stay in our balance, in the neutral space, where we can be of service, where we can be present. We're holding on to your ring finger and pinky and doing this breath. You're supporting yourself, but through that you also support everyone around you. And keep your eyes closed, preferable. We start to relax the breath, breathing in and out of our nostrils again. Being present to how we feel right now. And then we bring our hands into prayer pose. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you for joining this morning. Have a wonderful weekend, and we see you next time.